Welcome to Community Action's Lunch and Learn. These sessions are every Tuesday at 1 p.m. and they are a chance for us to showcase the island's voluntary sector support and organisations and groups who help people with health and mental health issues. We record the presentations and these are available from the Community Action website. When you type in Community Action on the front page, type in health into the search box and it will take you to the voluntary sector health partnerships page. These presentations are also available on the Community Action's YouTube site as well. After the presentation, we will stop recording and the audience will have a chance to ask questions. So today I would like to welcome Tony from Ventnor Town Council, who is the Community Development Officer. Welcome, Tony.
Thanks very much, Sandy. Thanks very much. I suppose my starting point would be I've been in post now for just under 10 years with Ventnor Town Council as a Community Development Officer. The Town Council kind of took the decision 10 years ago, rather than to give grants to the community sector and the voluntary sector, to actually employ a community development worker to work alongside them locally and develop services. So that's kind of been my role for the last 10 years. One of the groups we work very closely with is Ventnor Wellbeing Cafe, who operate out of our building in the green room in Ventnor and operate have sessions 4 days a week. They've got over 100 members and we provide a lunch 2 days a week on Tuesdays and Fridays. The group originated as part of Isle of Wight Council's mental health outreach and had a support worker who came in twice a week originally, then once a week. And it was a very small group that gathered around a little table and used to play games and talk to each other, but it was a very small group. The funding was withdrawn, so Ventnor Town Council stepped into the breach and actually took the group on, took the coordinator on for 1 day a week, rebranded it as a wellbeing cafe, and then opened up the membership. So rather than people having referrals, it was a matter of self-referral. So now the group has over 100 members. It's got its own allotment. It raises funds. The group raises funds for itself. So recently they went on a trip to the Needles, and also lots of services come along to the group. So for example, Living Well Early Help. There's somebody from Living Well Early Help here today. There's Clive over there. The social prescribers, citizens advice come in once a week. And it's very much a social group without, and people do actually need the lunch. The lunch is an important part of it. We've also arranged to get a washing machine installed downstairs so people can come in and do their washing if they need to. And the group actually very much decide what they would like to do, what their priorities are. So for example, they've got a visit to the bowling club coming up. They've done putting during the summer. They've got somebody from Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust coming and talking to them, going 10-pin bowling. They do board games. They regularly play bingo, and I confess to being occasional bingo caller for the group as well. But it's a great group and it is very, very welcoming. And what we thought was, rather than set up different groups for different specialisms, that it's good that people can just drop into this group and other services can work with the group as is. Locally in Ventnor, we have got quite a number of support agencies that the Town Council has been very involved with. For example, Ventnor Community Food Bank, back in July 2020, the Trussell Trust did have an operation based at Ventnor Baptist Church, and we're going to close the operation here. So we worked with the volunteers to keep the food bank going. So we've got an independent food bank in Ventnor that doesn't require vouchers or referrals, but it's open access. And what we found is that that works really well, in that people only visit 2 or 3 times at most, and often during crisis. There isn't, we don't put barriers in the way of people, but we're welcoming to them. And that's 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. They've now moved into the premises where Baby Box operates in Victoria Street. And Baby Box are another organisation we're incredibly proud of in our association with. From one person's idea of why don't the food bank give out enough variety of nappies, and to actually now become quite a major project which supplies nappies, baby food, clothing and other essentials for families, not just in Ventnor but for across the Isle of Wight, and get referrals from across the Isle of Wight. And we give them the premises free of charge. we let them use the premises free of charge because we were so proud of that project and the way it's grown. And Baby Box is a registered charity now, and as a charity, it incorporates all the food bank and also our recently opened community pantry. We've had some funding to operate a pantry. I think we're one of the first 3 on the Isle of Wight, along with the one in Ryde and East Cowes. And originally we were one of the busiest, but we're pleased that other pantries have opened. And it costs £5 to pay. If you remember, you become a member, you pay £5 for each visit, and you get at least £15 worth of food. Unfortunately, we've had capacity issues in that we can only literally get enough people to. We open 2 sessions a week on Tuesdays and Saturdays. But it's quite tricky to get enough. The space prohibits having more members. I mean, it's gradually increasing, but we hope to actually get some funding to enable it to have longer hours because the demand is there. And I suppose the starting point for a lot of this should be that Ventnor is a town with real pockets of poverty and deprivation, and something that the town council are very keen to highlight. So, for example, back in October last year, we commissioned a film about poverty in Ventnor by the filmmaker David George. We did a community showing of it, and on the back of that, the local community, one of the ideas that came out was that we set up a community support fund. So we've had donations. We have one donation of £30,000, which is astonishing, to address issues of poverty in the town. So a lot of that has gone to support the food bank, the pantry, to a certain extent the wellbeing cafe, but also we've run a town council issued co-op vouchers to people in poverty. So we'll get a referral from our local food bank and from Baby Box. We check with them that there's a genuine inquiry, and then we'd issue co-op vouchers to the tune of £25 for an individual, £50 for a couple, and £75 upwards for a family. We've done that 6 times already, so we've spent about £30,000 on that project. We're just in the process of reapplying for funding from Connect for Communities for that. The other thing we've been funded for recently, and thanks to Children's Services for this, we've always been a bit disappointed that the family centre in Ventnor hasn't been more used. In Albert Street, which is the next road down to Dudley Road, where our premises are, there's a family centre which at the height of when children's centres were much in vogue, and there was activity there all the time. We've now got a great relationship with Bernardo's. We've had some funding from Children's Services to open a parent and toddler group there 2 mornings a week, and we're hoping that we can keep that going for the future. So we've had some funding from Children's Services to keep that going. We've got a paid coordinator to deliver that service, because we've found that you need just one individual in a paid post, and you can have volunteers around them. So it's 8 hours a week the coordinator works, but as a group of volunteers to deliver that service. So that's working reasonably well, and it is the only provision of its type where it's free to access in Ventnor of a parent and toddler group, which is quite surprising when you think every church hall would have had its own parent and toddler group. But it's very much a need that we've recognised and have addressed. I did mention the importance of lunches for people in poverty and the kind of people that we see at the Wellbeing Cafe. We've had funding, so we did a community auction and raised some money to develop a warm space at St Catherine's Church in Ventnor, and that operates on a Thursday. So every Thursday there's a hot lunch available. It's open to everyone, and we've got a great team of volunteers prepare and cook the lunch. And once a month we saw how well Freshwater's Our Place sessions were going, and we thought, well, we can't be outdone by Freshwater. Not that we're competitive or anything. So we once a month, usually on the last Thursday of the month, we invite agencies along. So, for example, we regularly get, obviously, our good friends at Living Well Early Help. We have Veterans Outreach, Citizens Advice, other agencies come along. Bernardo's, People Matter are there, and we try and get the people, and they offer kind of free advice sessions. And really, it's about agencies that haven't got a permanent presence in Ventnor. So that, for example, we don't expect Veterans Outreach to open up an office here, but if the people know that they'll be at the church hall, at St Catherine's Church regularly on a Thursday of the month, they want to see them. We have Sight for Wight come along, and various other organisations, as well as the PCSO. So if you want to see the PCSO, you kind of can say, well, he's likely to be there. So it's kind of just building that, getting you know, so that people can just come in and just talk to the different agencies and have the opportunity to meet people. And also there's a merit too of having the voluntary sector, local voluntary sector, talking to the island-wide voluntary sector. So, for example, Baby Box and the Pantry are regularly at those sessions too, and we've got better days are coming to it in the future. Let's try and think. During the pandemic, I think we were, as a town council, we kind of were leading efforts locally to deliver. We were delivering shopping, collecting prescriptions, and at that time we had around 80 volunteers that we were managing. And what's really interesting is a lot of those volunteers are still there, but are working on some of these projects. So, for example, the lunch at St Catherine's, some of the chefs there or the cooks were volunteers we met during the pandemic, volunteers that came forward from the pandemic, and we found it really rewarding from the town council's point of view that a lot of the things we do, almost everything we try and do, we try and incorporate a role for volunteers. And it's great to see volunteers, people who are clients of a service, who then go on to volunteer with the service, who then go on to get employment with the service. And I think that's part of our role as a town council to enable that to happen. I mean, the other thing we do run a community centre in Ventnor, the Green Room. It's kind of, we offer room hire for free to the voluntary and community sector, because what we wanted originally was, again, to draw agencies into Ventnor. So people in Ventnor could see citizens' advice, could see access adult and community learning. We thought it was important. If we can offer free premises, those agencies are more likely to have a presence here. Although with the Wellbeing Cafe expanding so massively and in there 4 days a week, we haven't got so much capacity to have that sort of available space. So we also run a youth club and youth service twice a week. So I manage a youth worker, and we've just had funding again from Children's Services, been very good to us, to run more sessions at Rue Valley Sports Centre, and they operate normally twice a week. But again, we're looking for more, constantly looking for funding for the youth club so we can expand the activities that they provide. One other thing almost the first few weeks I was here, David Giorgio, our filmmaker, also made a film a few years ago about men's sheds. And we showed it at the Green Room. We had an audience, I think about 50 or 60 people came along to see it. And we thought we'd have to do that here. So we set up a men's shed, which pretty soon transformed itself into a community shed, because it's Ventnor, you know, it can't just be men's shed, we've got to be a bit better than that. We're open to all genders, and that's still flourishing. And it's got its own porter cabin up at St Boniface. And it's a great space for, you know, the idea of people talking shoulder to shoulder, of friendships building up. And there's it's kitted out with a complete woodwork workshop. There's some lovely outside open space for gardening, and it's a really lovely atmosphere there. And the shed, we commissioned them to build our own town council memorial benches. So they do that as like almost a production line, bless them to do that. We pay them, of course, I have to say that too. But again, that's a great project that's it's just there. And you think, and it's great that we've kind of got this network of community organisations in Ventnor all kind of working together. And we hope that we can kind of continue to do that. And what's been good too has been when there has been a gap in service provision, like we identified the parent and toddler group, like almost the Wellbeing Cafe before, when it was at mental health outreach, that the town council have been prepared to step in, provide funding for a staff member to keep it going. But I mean, that's been quite good from my perspective to see that happen. So if we just finish there then, but I'm happy to take any questions. I could probably go on a lot longer if need to be, but that's fine. But thanks.
That's lovely, Tony. Thanks ever so much. Really, really interesting. Okay, so I'm going to stop recording now, and then we'll hopefully ask you some questions.